She said, if I wanted your husband, I could have him. So I stayed quiet, gathered proof, and sent it all to her husband. Now she's divorced, jobless, and begging me to talk. I'm 30, and I've been married for just over 3 years. Nothing extravagant about our life, quiet weekends, the occasional trip, and plenty of laughter over takeout on the couch. It's been a stable, comforting partnership, the kind I never thought I'd have. I also had a close friend, Emily, 31. We met in college and had been through our fair share of life changes together, boyfriends, breakups, weddings. She was even one of my bridesmaids. I trusted her deeply. Our bond had never really been tested until a few months ago. It started subtly. She began dropping compliments about my husband that felt a little off. He looks so fit lately, or he has such a calm energy, doesn't he? It didn't bother me much at first. I figured she was just being friendly. But then her behavior started to change. She began showing up more often, usually when she knew I was at work or running errands. Sometimes she'd text me afterwards saying, I just dropped by to say hi. Hope that's okay. And when we were all together, her body language was different. She sat closer to him, laughed harder at his jokes, even touched his arm in conversations. At first, I tried not to overthink it. I didn't want to be that person who assumes the worst about people I care about. Maybe I was being paranoid. But then came the clothes. She started dressing, well, differently when she knew she'd be around my husband. Tighter tops, shorter skirts. Nothing outright inappropriate, but definitely noticeable. It felt intentional. I brought it up casually once. Something like, you've been hanging around a lot lately, just to test the waters. She just brushed it off with a laugh and said, what? Can't a girl miss her bestie's company? Still, something about it didn't sit right. I started becoming more alert. I'd rearrange plans and come home earlier than expected, hoping I was just imagining things. One day, I came home earlier than usual. I hadn't told either of them. As I walked into the apartment, I heard her voice coming from the kitchen. She was laughing, too loudly. I walked in and found her standing way too close to my husband. The moment they noticed me, she stepped back so quickly it was like her body betrayed her. That moment confirmed what I had tried so hard to deny. Her intentions weren't innocent. My husband looked immediately uncomfortable, like he'd been caught in the middle of something he didn't ask for. I didn't confront her right then. I needed time to process. Later that night, my husband sat me down and told me everything. He said she had been making advances over the past few weeks, subtle at first, then more direct. She once told him she felt a connection, and wondered if he'd ever been curious about someone else. He said he shut it down every time, but he hadn't told me earlier because he didn't want to hurt me or damage my friendship with her unless he was sure. I felt a mix of emotions, relief that he was honest, disgust at her actions, and confusion about what to do next. One thing was clear. Emily wasn't just stepping over boundaries, she was bulldozing them. We knew we couldn't just let this go. But rather than confront her with anger, we decided on something else, something more measured. We were going to get proof. After that conversation with my husband, the rose-colored lens through which I'd always viewed Emily was gone. All I could see now was someone who had quietly been plotting behind my back, using trust as her weapon. We didn't tell her anything. In fact, I made an effort to act normal, replying to her texts, liking her posts, even meeting her for coffee. It felt unnatural, but I needed to keep her comfortable while we figured out how to proceed. My husband and I decided we would document whatever we could, in case things got worse or she tried to twist the story later. We started saving messages. While she had been flirty in person, she wasn't exactly subtle in text either. She'd send things like, bet your wife doesn't make dinner like this, or, if you ever feel like talking to someone who really understands you, it made me sick, but also strangely relieved. We had something concrete. My husband played it cool. He never led her on, but he also didn't shut down communication completely, which gave her the confidence to keep revealing herself. It was difficult for both of us emotionally, but we agreed. We weren't doing this out of spite. We just wanted the truth to be clear to everyone it affected, especially her husband. Emily had been married for nearly 5 years. Her husband, Jake, and I were friendly but not particularly close. I'd always thought they had a solid relationship, but now, with everything happening, I wondered if she had kept other secrets from him too. About 2 weeks after our decision to start gathering evidence, things escalated. She sent my husband a voice note late at night. I listened to it with him. In it, she confessed she had feelings for him and said, if you weren't taken, I think we'd be perfect together. That was the final line crossed. We didn't respond. Instead, we sat down together and drafted a message to Jake. I was nervous. Telling someone their partner has been acting this way isn't just awkward, it's painful. But I kept thinking about how I would want to know. We sent him screenshots and the voice note. I didn't include any personal commentary, just facts. I told him he didn't need to respond if he didn't want to, but I hoped he would see the full picture. He didn't reply right away. 2 days passed in silence. Emily didn't know yet. And during those 2 days, she even invited me out for lunch like nothing had happened. I declined. I couldn't fake it anymore. On the 3rd day, Jake finally texted me back. It was short. Thank you. I had no idea. I'll take it from here. That evening, I found out through mutual friends that Jake had confronted Emily. Apparently, it was explosive. She initially denied everything, but when he played her voice note and showed her messages, she broke down. He didn't scream. He didn't argue. He just told her he was done. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it was coming. Emily stopped messaging me entirely. I didn't hear from her at all after that day, but I could sense that things were beginning to unravel around her. At that point, I wasn't angry anymore. Just tired. It had all felt like a bad dream I'd been stuck in. The truth was out now, and everyone knew where they stood. But I still didn't expect how far the consequences would reach, or how badly Emily would fall. The silence from Emily lasted for a while. No messages. No apologies. No attempts to defend herself. Just nothing. Meanwhile, we heard bits and pieces through friends. Emily and Jake were no longer living together. He'd moved out just days after confronting her, and it wasn't a temporary break. It was a decision. Jake filed for divorce. I wasn't surprised, but what struck me was how thorough he was. He didn't just walk away emotionally, he took every necessary step legally. They had joint assets, and apparently, he had reason to believe this wasn't the first betrayal. That was when more things started coming to light. Mutual acquaintances began to talk. Someone mentioned how Emily had always blurred lines with men at parties, how she craved attention in a way that made people uncomfortable, but no one ever said anything out loud. Most just brushed it off as Emily being Emily. But now, people weren't so forgiving. Some friends distanced themselves from her. A few openly called her out. She lost invitations to gatherings. Her name started to carry weight, and not in a good way. She wasn't just the woman who cheated. She was the woman who tried to seduce her friend's husband and got caught. She reached out to me once. Just once. It was a short message. I never meant for things to go that far. I wasn't thinking clearly. I didn't want to hurt you. No apology. Just a vague attempt at saving face. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted revenge, but because, by then, there was nothing left to say. Jake, on the other hand, didn't hold back. From what I later heard, he told her exactly what her actions cost him. His trust in her, his respect for her, and years of commitment he now viewed as wasted. The divorce moved quickly. Jake had financial control over most of their assets, and, based on their prenup, Emily didn't walk away with much. She had relied heavily on the lifestyle they built together, and now she was scrambling. I never celebrated her downfall, but watching it happen, knowing that all of it stemmed from choices she made, it was sobering. She had torched her life, thinking she was just playing a game. And when the smoke cleared, there was no one left on her side. Her social circle crumbled. Friends turned cold. She moved out of town not long after. Maybe she thought people would forget, or maybe she just couldn't stand the consequences. As for me and my husband, we're stronger. That whole experience could have broken us, but instead it reinforced what we already had: honesty, loyalty, and trust. We still talk about it sometimes, but only in passing. It's become one of those chapters you don't revisit often because you've already learned the lesson. Emily wasn't a villain at first. She was someone I once loved like a sister. But slowly, she became someone unrecognizable, someone who thought betrayal was justifiable if it served her desires. In the end, she didn't just lose her marriage. She lost her friendships, her reputation, her support system. And all of it was by her own hand.